Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater, your favorite program, Socialing the Distance. Today we have a real treat. We're featuring Tony Campbell, one of the most enduring agents, managers, and meet directors in the sport of athletics, and one of my very dear friends. Tony, good morning.
Good morning to you, Larry. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And I am so excited about your meet, buddy. It's a breath of fresh air. So you're putting on, we're going to talk about the meet first, and then I want to talk about how you got into the sport because I'm pretty excited about it. The official title is the Miramar Invitational, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. April 10th, 2011?
Yes, sir. Miramar, Florida.
And what's the facility?
Well, it's one of the top facilities in the United States. It's one that's been totally certified by the IAAF. They've held under 20 world events there. Okay. But this is the first time that they're going to be hosting a meet of this caliber, which would be a European-type atmosphere meet, which I think we need in America today.
And World Athletics is supporting the streaming. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then we've got our friends at Nike are showing some love and helping you get this thing together. And wow, the events are pretty darn amazing. You're starting out with the world champion at 400 meters, Ms. Nasser. He's competing against Elaine
Thompson in the 200 meters. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's a crazy. And then Mike Rogers, one of our big buddies, who's had a good indoor season. What do you have him in?
Well, we got Mike Rogers, we got Justin Gatlin, we got also Ronnie Baker, some of the top names. Nesta Carter from Jamaica is coming. Gillespie, Marvin Bracey. Yeah, just to name a few. Cameron Burrell. Yeah, it looks good. Demeet Kemp will be running. You know, he had a good indoor season. He was injured last outdoor season, but he's at full strength now. We fully expect this race to be sub 10 seconds. We're looking at around 9:92. We expect it to be right around that time.
That's amazing. And I'm looking at your 110 hurdle fields. Who do you think? Who are you so proud? I mean, Omar McLeod. I saw Omar in there.
And no, we don't have him confirmed as of yet. We don't have McLeod confirmed as of yet, but the people that we have confirmed in the meet are Daniel Roberts is our top entry, Freddie Cridnan. Who else do we have in there? Isaiah Moore, who had a pretty good indoor season. Just to name a few. Michael Dixon's another one that we think is an up-and-coming hurdler. So, yeah, it looks like a pretty good field. We're still working on a couple of people. We haven't totally shut that down. Because what I'm planning to do, Larry, is, you know, and speaking to the coaches early on, what we plan to do with the sprint events is have 16 come in, men and women, in sprint hurdles and run 2 sections of those events, and then run the fastest 8 times in the A section and the second fastest 8 times in the B section, so that everybody gets a chance to run twice. We're just the one to run one time and go home. I think this is beneficial early in the season to get some good runs in.
And as you are totally correct, buddy, in saying that it's just like the European meets, and we see those because they love those 2 rounds, and especially early in the season, that's a big, big deal. And then I see you got Shameen Little.
The women's 400 is going to be, Larry, this is going to be fantastic. The women's 400. I'm kind of got sweaty palms, you know, and just thinking about it right now. You know, we got from Jamaica, we got Stephanie McPherson, who's a veteran on the circuit. We got with Shamir Little, you already mentioned. We got Waylon, 2 U.S. relay members, Wembley and Jonas Wadley. I think Wadeline is the name. Yeah. So we got three women in there that I think, you know, have a really good chance. Well, Shamir Little's already run mid-50s indoors already. So, you know, we're looking at her with the possibility of breaking 50 seconds and running 49, which would be great for our meet.
What do you think about the men's 200? Who are you excited about there?
Wow. The 200 is a killer. I'm in trouble in the men's 200, Larry, because I'm going to tell you, you know, we got from Jamaica, you know, he's a 400-meter runner, but he's run sub 20 in Akeem Bloomfield. You know, we think, and Dennis Mitchell has given us all of these guys, you know, Kenny, Ben Market, and Aaron Brown is in it, another World Championship finalist, and another, and we have 2 more Jamaicans in there. And then I'm working like crazy to get Fred Curley in there. I think that he can run a very good 200. I'm working on that right now. Hopefully we can get him. Keep your fingers crossed. You know, I want to get Fred Curley in if we can.
Yeah, I just want to help Fred tie his shoes twice, man, because that 45.03 with the shoestrings bouncing.
Oh, yeah, he's ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could have popped a 44.5 indoors if he.
You
know?
Well, remember, he only ran one time, and he just dropped the dime and just went back home and started training, you know? So he's ready to go.
That's exciting. That 100 with Justin in the crowd, boy, that's going to be fun. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And we still got 2 more lanes open. I'm waiting. I don't want to jinx myself. We're waiting for 2 more names I have out there. We're trying to get them to come. And like I said, I'm going to hold that till later on. I don't want to speak out of turn there, but we're hoping to get 2 more studs in there to fill those last 2 lanes. I'm working on that, and it looks good. Right now, we have a great field in there in 100 meters. Like I said, I think we're going to go sub 10, around, mid 9s, 992, 995 or so, which would be a great season opener.
What about the men's 400? What can you tell me about that field?
Okay. Okay, right now we have Michael Cherry, Will London, and Anthony Sembrano so far confirmed. Good. Those 3.
Okay, yes. Good. You're smoking. What about, I saw Ajay Wilson in the women's 800. Who's going to be? Oh, yeah, the women's 800 is, I tell you, that's another event got me in trouble, Larry. I'm going to tell you. But people are just, everybody wants to run the women's 8, and, with the 2 top ones we got is Wilson and Gould. They're going to be running in there. And then we have a Sierra Brown, Charlene Lipsy, just to name a few, and then a Canadian young lady named Alexander Bell. We have her in there. So, we still got room in there that we're working on. Like I said, I just didn't want to go crazy confirming everybody all of a sudden and then have trouble with it. So we're moving slowly and getting the best people possible, for that event as well. Let's talk about the field events. On the women's side, you have the shot put and the long jump? So what you're doing?
Yeah, we have the long jump for women. I kind of put the long jump in for, and also we're going to have with USA Track and Field, Sue Humphreys called me and asked me would I put a women's high jump in there. So we're going to put that in as well. And the women's long jumps, sorry, Larry, for getting off track here. I'm getting a little excited about the meet. Excuse me.
No, that's what it's all about, buddy.
Yeah.
Tell me about the long jump. What do you got in the long jump?
For the women?
Yeah.
We got my favorite, Talia Brooks, the multi-event young lady. We have from Canada, Bailey Sims.
Yep.
Another one, hold on. We have a girl from Venezuela named Ari Sanchez. And Brooks, another long jump, Burks, and Bartoletta. Tiana Bartoletta. We have her and Yasmin Todd so far. And we're looking to get one more person in there as well.
Okay. And on the men's field events, what do you have right now?
Okay, we have men's high jump that I put in.
All right.
And so far, we got Trey Culver, Jerome Robinson, Townsend, Roderick Townsend, a Brazilian boy named Julio Tego, Javon Reeves, Shelby McEwen, and Lane Keno in there.
They've been looking really good. And some of the other guys, that'll be fun. What other?
We have in the men's long jump, we got the world champion from Jamaica. What's his name? Gale. Yeah.
I like him. I interviewed him in Doha. I think he was shell shocked. I'd love to get a little more time with him. I mean, that was an amazing competition.
Yeah.
And, he has got so much talent. And so young, that'll be really fun to see. So,
well, the only one missing I couldn't get was the Cuban because of the visa situation. Because they indicated that they wanted to come as well. Could have got the Cuban federal, could have got them, but with the visa problems that we're having right now, it was a little bit difficult to get him in. But we'd have loved to have him come in the long jump against Gale. That would have been fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Talk to me about the challenges as a meet manager with the pandemic. What special things do you have to do? Do you have from USATF helping you, or how does that work?
Well, yes, yes. I tell you, they were great help. Max, our CEO there, and Duffy Mahoney and Mike Conley, they really helped out a lot. I tell you, it couldn't have been possible without those three gentlemen, coming, stepping in and really helping out. And also Llewellyn Starks at Nike and Craig Masback as well did a great job in helping me get off the ground. But that's only half the money. The other half of the money I have to find, most of it came from my company, putting this thing together. Initially, I put money out of my own pocket because I thought it was necessary. Larry, this has been a lifelong dream of mine to have a European type event in America. Yeah. And I'm finally getting a good chance to realize that dream in Miramar, Florida on April the 10th.
Tony, I'm very excited about it. Now, is the local community with their rules going to allow you to have any fans in the stands or not?
Well, the mayor's okayed 1,000 for us, 1,000 fans in the stands. So that was a big hit for us right there, that he would allow some fans in there for us because, you need that electricity in the air with the fans, to get the athletes going, motivating them.
Yeah, I think especially outdoors, it's a big, big deal. I mean, I just watched the European Championships and the NCs, and it was like, at least in the NCs, there was the athletes and the coaches in there,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's tough. I want to talk, I've known you since about 1980, and I got approval from you to talk a little bit about this. What a lot of people don't know is how long you've been in the sport. I met you when you were working at Runner's World for one of the real true characters in the sport, Bob Anderson, the founder of Runner's World magazine, and you were putting the fields together at the Runner's World Indoor Classic. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I recall Bob wanting the first sub 4-minute mile in San Francisco. The meet was done in the Cow Palace, which was what, 160-yard track, I think. I remember back at the time.
That's correct.
Around, and you had a field in the mile with Dave Moorcroft, Steve Scott, Ray Flynn. I think the slowest guy in the field was 3:55 for the mile. Okay, and they all came back on Sunday and ran a 15K track race too, because Bob got everybody a little bit out of it. Talk about the challenges of putting a meet on back then.
Well, the biggest problem was the money wasn't there like it is now. A big payday was maybe $500, $1,000 now. Then you couldn't get me to run for $500. Now so it was difficult. With the amount of money that was there. But though these athletes competed well, and if they knew you, they competed. I was able to put together a field because of my connections with the different athletes. I can call them. I'm known as TC around the world, and half the people don't even really know my name. They just know TC. So I can pick up the phone and say, "Yo, this is TC. I need for you to be here in Miramar, Florida." And 9 times out of 10, they will respond because of my relationship with them that goes back, many decades.
How did you get into the agent business? And when did you start?
It was purely by accident that I got into it. Because I was a coach and I was a graduate assistant at Berkeley under Irv Hunt and Eddie Hart.
Yeah.
And then Eddie Hart got me to come to Alameda Community College with him to be his assistant. He was the head coach. And that's what I really want to be. My passion has always been coaching. I've always wanted to be a coach. And we had a fantastic team at Alameda Community College. I remember with Eddie Hart. We had 7 athletes and competed in the state championship against Long Beach City, and they beat us by, I think, they had 2 chartered buses full of athletes. We had 7.
Wow.
And we only lost to them by less than 10 points, at the meet. And because our triple jumper, who was the best in the country, fouled 3 times, or we would have beaten them with 7 athletes. I tell you, we had a great team. So Eddie always respected me as his guy to recruit athletes. And that was my specialty, was recruiting, talking to people and getting them to join me. So we happened that year. We had, I remember Adrian Rogers, James Robinson, and Quinn Wheeler.
Wow.
You know, they were all training, and you know, I was helping them out doing their workouts. And they said, "Hey, would you like to go to Europe this summer and help us out?" I said, "Europe? I've never been out to the U.S. What the heck where's Europe at?" You know, and you know, I thought about it, and then there was a deal with Puma. They had a Puma group going, and Puma decided they were going to fund 3 groups and give them, I think it was $10,000 each. You know, the groups, to take a number of athletes over to Europe.
Okay.
So being that I was younger than the athletes at the time, you know, they decided to fund Russ Rogers and Larry Livers back then, which I'm sure you remember those gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then when they came to me, they said, well, we could only give you $5,000 instead of 10. And I said, wow, how are we going to do this? So back then, they didn't have fax machines. We had a thing called telex back then to communicate with the European meet directors. And so I did it, and, you know, and I got there and didn't know much, but Quentin, who had been to the Olympics, he kind of helped me along. As long as I would carry his bags for him, he helped me along. So I kind of learned. So that summer we got to Europe, and I carried too many suitcases. I had like 3 or 4 suitcases. I didn't know what to do. And they all laughed at me because I was the only one carrying all these bags around. We were on and off trains. Larry, I remember one night we fell asleep going through Germany, and we ended up in East Berlin. And the police stopped us and came on with machine guns on and said, passport. And I tell you, I almost died that night. Larry, that almost shot us all because we were going through East Germany with no visas, no nothing. We had fell asleep and the train went through the east side. So anyway, so that was part of the story. So we ended up going to Puma in Herzl, you know, because there wasn't a lot of meets back then. During the whole summer, there might have been 14 meets the whole summer. Okay. So there would be breaks like 3, 4, 5 days. So you have nowhere to go. You have to pay for a hotel. So we called Puma, and Puma said, hey, you're the only guys left. So everybody else had bailed out, and my group was the only one still in Europe at the time.
Wow.
And they were all looking for us. Then they found out we ended up at Puma, the factory. So we're sitting there eating, and Larry had eaten good like in about a week, because we had no money. Yeah. So we're sitting there, and the man ordered steak and potatoes. I was sitting there, it was beautiful. So all of a sudden, this guy comes in, this stubby guy comes in, and he happens to sit right next to me. And everybody got up and was bowing. I didn't know who the guy was. To tell you the truth, Larry, I hadn't eaten. I was hungry. I was eating. I said, I don't know who this gentleman is, but I hope he don't mind me eating this steak. So anyway, they would start talking business, and he said, you know, we're trying to get Cuba away from Adidas. And if we can find somebody who can get us into Cuba, you know, he has a lifetime job with us. And I said, really? I said, I can help you. I know a few Cubans. He said, if you do it, you're in. Next thing you know, I had the only 2 athletes from Cuba who didn't wear it was Juan Torrena and Carida Colon, the javelin throw. I had the whole Cuban team in Puma in 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they all won medals. Suryo Leonard and Alejandro Casanes and them boys, you know, they all won medals, and I ended up looking good. And that's when I started, that's when I started becoming Tony Puma to the Cubans. Yeah, right there.
Talk to me about Cuba, because the Cuban Federation, obviously very cautious about dealing with Americans, but you spoke fluent Spanish understand the Cuban dialect because you're the lady that helped raise you spoke Spanish, right?
Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and my mother's best friend was this Cuban lady, and she raised me. And well, heck, I spoke Spanish better than I spoke English when I was coming up as a kid, because you know I was with her most of the time. So I spoke Spanish, and she spoke Spanish back to me. So Spanish became second nature. So I didn't even know I had an accent. I just knew I understood some Spanish. So they liked it, and the Cubans accepted me, and I became Tony Puma. To the Americans, I was a communist because I used to go with the Cubans into East Berlin, to Russia, everywhere. They accepted me because I was with the Cubans. So that's why I have friends on the Eastern Bloc. I have very good friends there.
Was the gentleman that you were talking to at the Puma headquarters Mr. Dossler?
Yes. Wow. Armin Dossler. Yeah, I didn't even know who he was.
Wow.
Yeah. He
That
was
is
sitting right next to me. I couldn't believe it. The owner of the company was sitting right there. It was unbelievable.
wow. The you worked for Puma for a long time then, correct?
Yeah. I was the Puma guy to Cuba. That was mine, and to some Spanish, to some other Latin countries.
What and then one of the signs of a healthy and successful manager is you work with many of the brands. What is the challenge of working for multiple brands?
Well, it's favors, because a lot of times you get athletes that, you have to call in a favor to get them in a company, right?
Yeah.
And later on you get somebody else and they will come to you and say, well, you owe me now, Campbell. So we want so-and-so, okay? And another company may offer more money to, for that client, but you have to draw the line in the sand somewhere and say, either I'm going to do this and not burn a bridge, or take the money and just suffer the consequences later on. So that's a decision that every agent has to reach. I've been able to survive with all the companies because I don't burn bridges. If a guy does something for me, I reciprocate, with that, and a lot of times in this business, I tell you, Nike's not going to lose. The only person going to lose is the agent. Nike is so big that they can afford to lose an athlete, if they want to. They can buy whoever they want or not buy. I mean, it's up to them. So I'm a little fish in the game. So I'm not going to burn any bridges with Nike, Adidas, Asics, or anybody. I'm a straight shooter when it comes to doing business, Larry.
We've seen the sport in cycles, and right now, Puma under Pascal Rawling is picking up a lot of athletes. Nike's letting some people go. Adidas is picking up athletes. How do you explain the cycles in the sport?
Well, normally what happens is there's a big push the Olympic year to sign people.
Yeah.
And then post-Olympic year, being that they spend so much money, they start shedding athletes, okay? And Nike is one of the companies that spends the most money. So obviously it's more obvious with them because they shed the most athletes because they have the most athletes. Sure. So it looks like Nike's losing athletes, but let's say the 100 meters, they must have 6 lanes out of the 100 meters for men and women. Okay, so obviously they don't need all 6 because they got to get some new people in. So they may drop 3 out of each event so they can pick up 3 more kids coming out of college because they already got their money's worth from whoever they signed. So it's just basically business. It's difficult for the athletes to understand that, but that's the nature of the game, So, as an agent, you have to explain that to the athletes that either you're in the top 3 or you're going to be out. And that's just the way it is.
Talk to me about what's the worst thing that the pandemic has done in regards to the sport? How do you see it right now? What's been the biggest challenge since the pandemic started?
Well, I think the ability for athletes to use facilities and train and get ready. Yeah. One of the biggest problems we have in America is that most of the prime facilities are on college campuses or high school campuses and so forth. We have very few tracks that are independent of some kind of educational system. So when they close down, that means the athletes have nowhere to train. See, that's what makes this Miramar meet so great. It's owned by the city. So we're not under the same restrictions as University of Miami or University of Florida is at the moment, where they have restrictions. You can't come use a facility because it's shut down because of the pandemic. We don't allow students, so we're not going to allow you to come in there. So it's a tough thing. We don't have that problem in Miramar, because the city runs it and they have their own set of rules.
You took some of your athletes to Europe this winter. How challenging was that?
Larry, it was, well, the biggest problem was that taking the coronavirus test everywhere we went. Let me give you an example. When I left LA to go to Dusseldorf for the first meet, Germany, I was going on American, but American wouldn't accept my invitation letter to go to the meet. So they wouldn't let me on the flight.
Oh my God.
I called KLM, and KLM accepted the letter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm cool. So now I cancel my ticket with American. I go with the KLM, but now the problem with KLM is you have to take a test before you get on the flight. So I already had a coronavirus test, a PCR test, to qualify to get on the flight. But KLM said to transit through Amsterdam, you have to have an antigen test that you have to take 4 hours before the flight. So that means before I even left LA, I had to take 2 tests. Okay.
Wow.
Then when I arrived in Düsseldorf, you have to take a test to get into the hotel. Okay. So that's 3 tests now I had to take. Okay. And then when we left Düsseldorf and we went to Berlin, we had to take another test before we got to Berlin. And then Berlin gave another test to go into the stadium. So this is all the stuff you had to go through, right? You know? Yeah. And of course we had to pay for every test we took.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, people don't think about all the additional costs. Is it talk to us about juggling travel, because the athletes are trying to figure out their workouts and their races. Your job as an agent and a manager is to make sure you get your athletes to the meets on time, make sure that they're there for the press conferences. Is it hard to juggle all the other things that are involved in an athlete competing successfully?
Yeah, because you got transportation is a big problem. You know, how do you get from as an agent, you have to be a travel agent, and so forth. You have to know the best routing to get to a meet, because sometimes if you don't do it right, an athlete can spend, you don't know how many hours traveling from in between meets. This is some of the things, Larry, if I can just deviate a little bit, is that a fan that's looking at a meet from Europe doesn't understand what an athlete has to go through going from meet to meet. There's some logistical things that, it's not, information that's ready information for somebody to pick up on. But I can tell you from experience is that an athlete that's in Europe, you'll see maybe, for instance, a run 10:08, and you say, oh, that's slow. I can run that. But you don't know the conditions. What an athlete had to go through to get to the meet. What was the hotel conditions? Were they good? Did they arrive late? Did they get enough sleep? How was the meal? Because I tell you, some meets you go to, the food is terrible. Athletes have to go to McDonald's to get something to eat because the food is just, just unbearable. So these are some of the little things that you have to make adjustment, and the agent has to prepare all these things in advance. Maybe find some food, a restaurant or something to take the athletes to, from meet to meet. This is not part of your job description, but you have to include it if you want your athletes to compete well.
Now, in typical, and I've been in Europe where I've seen you, week after week, every 3 days at a different meet. You're taking trains to one place, you're driving to another, you're flying. Do the big meets, I noticed a couple of the big meets will charter a plane occasionally when stuff's really close and put everybody together. Are they taking care of that, or do you guys all have to pay for all those tickets?
No, what they'll do is they'll fill the plane. What they'll figure out is how much that flight costs, and they'll put that number of athletes on the flight, which covers the cost of the plane. Okay. The good thing about that is that it's a direct flight. You don't have to go transiting through these different countries and so forth. But very few meets do that. That's like the Diamond League meets, and really the only meet that does that is Zurich. They're the only ones that really throw out that kind of money. Everybody else, you have to fend for yourself. And I tell you, some of the other things that you need to explain to the fans, or I can, is that as an agent, most of the time we pick up all the costs. Okay. From meet to meet, we pay. And then we wait to get this money back. So people think we're making a windfall of money, Larry. I want to tell you, I looked at my American Express bill, at the end of the year. And let me tell you, most of us sponsor track and field because we have to wait 3 or 4 months to get this money back. In American Express, the interest rates is outrageous what they're charging, for. And after a while, we're all maxed out with our credit cards waiting for money to come in. So, a lot of our profit that we make is given back to American Express, I can tell you. Yeah.
Let me give an example. One of the meets that we love to cover is the Golden Spike that Alphonse puts on in Ostrava. Yeah. And you guys have to fly into Vienna, and then don't you take a car for 4 to 6 hours?
Yeah. You can either fly into Vienna, right? Or you can fly into Prague and take the train from Prague. You can take it in. So you have some options. Normally, Alphonse picks you up from Vienna. He sends a car, but like you said, it's about 4 hours. So, so depending on what day you get there, a lot of athletes don't know, because they're moving around. You're lucky to get 36 hours before the meet, arrival time. And, as far as Americans are concerned, Europeans, they just get in their car or, get to the meet. But when you're traveling already from the States and you're just hopping around from meet to meet, it's really incredible how American athlete can compete as well as they do, Larry, with all the traveling involved and sitting in cars. And, I've been on van rides for 6 hours from one meet to the other, because the only way to get there, so it's unbelievable. It's just a credit to the American athlete that is so well prepared, so talented that they can go over there and compete as well as they do. Because I tell you, you go through some really trying times trying to get around from meet to meet.
You can your athletes compete in some of the meets in like Switzerland and Austria, some of these really small kind of fun meets and things like that. Do you try to get them into the smaller meets when they get over there first to kind of shake it out, and then you take them to the big meets? Is there a
absolutely?
Okay.
I'm one of the few guys that's willing to do that because there's not much money involved. But I think it's good preparation for the athletes to get them to go to a small meet because let's say Mike Rogers, for instance, who's a guy, he's a road warrior. But Mike Rogers has trouble in the first couple of days of making that adjustment, his body adjusting to the time change and so forth. Yeah. So with him, I always like to take him to a smaller meet to get a blowout in so that he can perform better at the bigger meets. Because if we get off the plane and he goes to a Rome or a Berlin or a Zurich or something like that first meet, he'll be okay, but nowhere near where he should be because his body is not functioning properly. So that he needs an extra couple of days and a blowout run to get him going for the bigger meets.
And you, one of the meets in Central Europe, the July Invite that Marton July puts on, that's in Budapest. What's special about the July meet? Because I've had athletes tell me, like Tiana Bartoletto said, it's her favorite meet in Europe. And I've had several other athletes say how much they love that event. What does Marton and his team do there that makes it special?
Well, the first thing is you need no transportation to get to the track. You can just get up anytime you want to go to the track. You can walk there. The other thing is that they accept you early to come in because they know that an athlete has to get acclimatized. So they don't say you can come in one day before the meet. They normally give you 2 or 3 days to come in to get your body functioning properly. The other thing is that it's great. The food is good there and it's cheap to eat. They have 1,000 restaurants around where the hotel is. And you can go to any one of them and with $10, $15, you got you a serious meal, which is good. That's not the same in other countries, which is really more expensive. And for us, Asian is great because the beer is only $2, so we have a good time there. So, so for us, it's a dream come true. So, all in all, it's a good meet. They have good competition there. They take very good care of the athletes, and the facilities are great there. And like I said, it's just a fun experience. And the Julian meet, he was one of the IAAF. What was he as secretary there for a long time. And, he's well respected. Everybody liked him. Everybody knew him. And he's had that meet for a long time, They're just picking it up again. So it's just a fun place to go. I mean, it's just hard to put in the words. It's just great to go there every year. I love it. I've been going there for a long time.
So you're taking all your experiences and putting it into your meet now, the Miramar Invite. We're down to about 8 minutes. I want you to tell people why they should check your meet out. What's going to be special about it?
Well, I think it's going to be special, Larry, for a number of reasons. But I think a main reason is that, we're going to bring, as I said earlier in your broadcast, a European type atmosphere to USA track and field. What does that mean? We're going to bring the players in. We got meet directors from Europe coming in and so forth. Because normally a big track meet, what you have is not so much the running, but the atmosphere leading up into the meet. The hotel electricity is there. You got big name athletes. You got people from around the world there. And it's just a buildup, to the meet. And that's what we have to bring. Track meet is a show. Yeah. And we need to make it that way. Because now you have a track meet in America and it's blasé and so forth. There has to be more excitement leading up into the meet. And that's what we want to bring, some more electricity into the meet. So when people come, it's a happening kind of thing, as opposed to just watching a couple of guys run around the track and going home at the end of the day and having a beer. This is what we want to bring, that type of atmosphere back into the thing. Because, Larry, we used to have that in America. This country, there was no European circuit. There was the American circuit. We had the indoor circuit that you alluded to earlier. We had a great outdoor circuit, and we lost all of that. Now, what meets do we have in America? We have the best athletes in the world, but we have no way to showcase them. That's why there's no money in the sport, because the American public doesn't know an athlete from another one. So we have to bring that atmosphere back to America, and that's what I want to do. I want to be that guy.
That's awesome. So this is we've been talking to Tony Campbell. He's got the Miramar Invite on April 10th in Miramar, Florida. The fields are fantastic, and we'll be posting that on Run Blog Run and keeping people updated and getting pictures up of athletes and doing some interviews with them. And Tony, I'm really excited about this meet for you, buddy. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be really exciting too. So great job. The athletes you have so far are superb, and I wish you luck on filling up those last few spots and places too. So that should be really good. Tony, thanks again. This was awesome.
Thank you, Larry, for having me. I really appreciate the time you've taken to help me promote the meet. Really, thank you a million times. Thank you so much.
All right, this is Larry Eder with Run Blog Run. This is Socialing the Distance. We featured one of the more iconic agents and managers in the sport, Tony Campbell. We've been talking about his meet, the Miramar Invite, Miramar, Florida, April 10th. It'll be streaming courtesy of World Athletics, sponsored by Nike and some of the other sponsors that we will highlight. But thank you, Tony, for getting us involved in this. Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder. This is Run Blog Run and your favorite program, Socialing the Distance. And this is the epilogue, our Larry's monologue. Today we featured one of the most colorful and eccentric and exciting people in the sport, Tony Campbell. Tony bridges the old time of the sport and the new time of the sport, and he is one of the more creative people in the sport. Raised in Brooklyn, and his mom's best friend was Cuban, so he spoke Cuban Spanish before he really spoke English, and it's come to help him because he was Tony Puma to the Cuban Athletes and Federation, having met the one and only Rudolph Dassler back in the 1970s, when Dassler wanted an entree into Cuba to get Cuban athletes. TC's been around since then. He's an agent, he's a manager, he's a meet director. And what he's putting on now is one of the dreams that he's wanted to do, the Miramar Invite, which will be held April 10th, 2021 in Miramar, Florida. The facility is owned by the City of Miramar, so it's a different world. The athletes can train there, they can compete there, and the city is allowing them 1,000 fans. World Athletics is involved in that. They will be sponsoring and supporting the streaming video, which will be available globally for free, and the Nike is supporting the meet, as there will be other sponsors. Run Blog Run will be involved on the social media side and the promotion side. And we're pretty excited. I mean, on the men's side, you got the 100, the 200, the 400, the 800, the 110 hurdles, the 400 hurdles. And the field events, I believe, are the long jump and the high jump. On the women's side, you have the 100, the 200, the 400, the 800, the 100 hurdles, the long jump, high jump, and I believe the women's shot put. Both should be good, exciting meets. And what Tony's about is he was there when we had a ton of meets in the U.S. And they were sponsored by newspapers, media organizations, and then they went away. And so a lot of athletes of this generation see track and field through the Prefontaine, through the NCAA indoor and outdoor, through perhaps relay in their area or a small meet in their area. Now we're seeing more of these, what I call almost boutique meets, which are fantastic. You know, some of the stuff Jesse Williams is doing. But what Tony's going to do is bring a European feel and style meet to the U.S. And the only other experience we have with that currently is outdoors, is the Nike Pre, which is, the way many of us learned about European athletics, is by seeing the athletes at that meet. But Tony is using his charm, his grace, and his 50 years of experience to bring in some of the best athletes in the world. The men's 100 is loaded. The women's 100 features the 400-meter world champion and the 100 and 200-meter past world champion, Elaine Thompson and Miss Nasser, which I think is going to be one of the highlights of the meet. The men's 100, Mike Rogers, Justin Gatlin. The men's 110 hurdles is going to be big time as well. And you've got women's 100 and 200. Women's 400 is going to be a streamer. So, and then the women's 800 has Natalia Goya, the Jamaican women 800-meter runner, as well as Ajay Wilson. So that should be pretty exciting. And that, again, it's April 10th. Watch us. We'll begin promoting it in the next few days. And this is Larry Eater with Run Blog Run. This is your favorite program, Socialing the Distance. We featured Tony Campbell, agent, manager, meet director, one of the real movers and shakers in the sport. And thank you again for watching us. This is the epilogue. And if you like Run Blog Run, like us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you love us, subscribe on YouTube. Stay safe. If you can't be separated more than 6 feet outdoors, wear a mask. If you are indoors, please wear a mask. Get your vaccine. Stay safe. And we want to see you at some of the big meets. Again, Larry Eater, Run Blog Run, signing off.